The Slobberknockers out to change the game in pro wrestling podcasting. I've never heard a pro wrestling podcast like it. Mike and Kyle are the greatest wrestling minds of a generation. I heard Mike and Kyle fantasy booking, and I immediately hired them as head of creative. The Slobberknocker Podcast. Get this started.
The official podcast, the flagship podcast of Theater in the Ring. Don't go to the website because it's not there yet.
There's nothing up on Theater in the Ring, but we just want to make sure we tell you about it so things can get rolling on it
You
soon.
can follow us on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen. It is Theater in Ring on Twitter. And don't forget to follow your favorite pro wrestling podcast on Twitter as well, at Slobberknocker Pod. There is content on the Twitter page, and there will be a lot more. Also, the Facebook page. Follow us there. We got a lot of stuff going on. This show is going to be as epic as Bobby Roode's theme song. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't.
You haven't even heard, dude.
No, I told you I haven't watched NXT.
I will it's like a Muse song. It's so cool. I'm so jazzed for Bobby Roode, his run in NXT purely
Hashtag
based
Glorious Bomb.
on that theme song. Exactly. You watched the Glorious Bombs.
No, not yet.
Come on,
I've
man.
just been reading about it on the internet.
We'll get there. I mean, we'll show it to you. But
there's so much pro wrestling content out there. Sometimes I'm just like, I feel like I would need to stop doing everything and focus all of my time on pro wrestling.
It's almost a double-edged sword.
It is.
And we've talked about it before. Lots of people are talking about it in the pro wrestling fandom world. It's just becoming a lifestyle.
It is.
Especially if you're watching content that isn't WWE. I know a lot of people are excited about season 3 of Lucha Underground coming up. And I've done a bit of catching up where season 1 and 2 are concerned. So I'm very excited going in as a guy who is enamored mostly by storyline and compelling drama. It's sometimes over the top and a lot inspired by mythology.
Yeah.
But it is extremely cool and entertaining, so I'm really excited about that. But as always, we have a lot of WWE-themed pro wrestling to talk about. A lot is going on in the high art of pro wrestling right now. And before we get into it, I know we've mentioned Theater in the Ring a lot. Theater in the Ring is sort of our idea for a broader network of pro wrestling fans coming together to create content that was inspired by the fact that Mike and I, your most over pro wrestling podcasting hosts on the internet, are both actors, improvisers, lovers of good story, and that's what really has brought us into the world of pro wrestling as adults. So Theater in the Ring is based off of that sort of I know Xavier Woods talked about it when he went on like a Twitter rant. Pro wrestling, the art of it, is really the closest thing we have to Shakespeare. Yep. I mean, it's really Shakespeare in the round.
It's theater in the round,
and in the ring, and that's where the name comes from. And ideally, I mean, the long-term goal here is to produce theater, to produce full-length plays that are either inspired by or set inside the world of pro wrestling. I don't want to give away too many of our ideas, just in case somebody who's willing to act on them sooner than us
wants to,
like Vince McMahon or somebody,
has the resources to do it. That's a great idea. I'm going to take it. You're fired.
But we do have a lot of it. And before we get to the point where we're producing, live theater, which is the goal. We're actors. That's our goal. It really is a theater company. We're going to start producing a lot more content for the pro wrestling fan that's really story based, and that will include podcasts like this, editorials. A lot of exciting stuff coming out of there. Podcast media, live entertainment.
Videos.
We've got a couple
guests.
Videos, sketches. We have backgrounds, especially Mike, in sketch comedy and improv. We record every week right here from the Harold Ramis Film School inside the Second City in Chicago, Illinois. That toddling town, Chicago.
That toddling town, and, my kind of town.
Also a great town for independent pro wrestling, which again we hope to have to join the family of. We're fans, and we want to sort of move our fandom up to a new level. And it's sort of like we can't help it. That's how much we love pro wrestling.
A lot of this is to continue to build our own personal network within, well, not just like theater and performing, but also pro wrestling for sure. And definitely, I mean, I don't think it would be a surprise to anybody that knows us really well that if you and I could, had a career in pro wrestling, whatever it may be, manager, announcer, ringside commentators, any of that
true.
stuff
Nobody
would be a dream come true.
People probably wouldn't be surprised, but the goal too is to appeal to people who normally wouldn't think that they would enjoy pro wrestling.
Correct.
Especially people, friends of mine, people we know who we've met through doing theater who would just scoff at the idea of even enjoying any sort of pro wrestling. But it's just pro wrestling is theater, and if you can think of it more in the context of its own unique art form, where yes, there's a man out there wearing brief tights and a scarf and nothing else. We're talking about Chris Jericho. And when people see that, they're just standing in the ring, scattily dressed in nothing but a scarf and underwear. What is this?
What is he doing?
But you watch Shakespeare, and they're talking in a way that we're not accustomed to in 2016. They're wearing garb that we're not accustomed to in 2016, and there are so many parallels between theater and pro wrestling that I think it appeals to more people than they think.
Well, it turns people off pro wrestling, and I've talked to people about it, and I had my friend Kayla Poli on as a guest on this podcast. It was like the second episode, and she was talking about women's wrestling specifically, and hearing her take on it was fantastic.
Absolutely.
Because she doesn't understand why women need to like do their hair and put all these extensions in and put on all this makeup and wear these like really tight, skimpy, scantily clad clothes, and she's just like, they're women. Like, it doesn't matter if they're beautiful or not. They're tough women. They're like, why can't they just put their hair up in a ponytail and go at it and some Under Armour? And I'm just like, you're exactly right.
How about a side ponytail, Bailey?
Right?
And that's what we're doing
gets me
now.
is just like,
she's talking about the divas, and
the divas.
they're
now women's wrestling, but we're focusing specifically on the storylines and not what these people are wearing.
It's sure, absolutely. Unless it's Eva Marie, and then she's sort of like she's sort of like the relic of the divas era.
She might have some wardrobe malfunctions.
And I'm not complaining. More of that, please, Eva Marie.
Wardrobe malfunctions on Eva Marie's side.
I'm kind of loving this whole Eva Marie angle, which we'll hopefully get into when we talk a little bit more about.
Yeah, we'll see what happens when she actually wrestles a match in the WWE for once.
If she ever does.
Happens.
And I really am curious to see how long they keep this gimmick going.
I don't have a problem with it right now because the whole fake injury last week and this now, like, she already had so much heat on her coming back because she was in the WWE. She was on like Raw or something like that. And then she requested, I respect her for this. She requested to go back to NXT
and
because she felt she was just like, I'm not ready for this. I need more training. And she was smart for doing that. And now she's back. We'll see if all that training has helped her any as soon as she's actually like able to start working in the ring. But everything that she's doing so far, the whole injury, the wardrobe malfunction,
I'm loving it.
It's building
I love her announcer.
Heat.
I thought it was even cooler. I mean, we're jumping the gun here a little bit, but who cares? There's no freaking rules. We're the bosses of this thing.
We don't have
a chairman telling us what to say. There's no
one's yelling in our ear, being like, "You need to do this. Talk about this."
It's just the greatest wrestling minds of a generation talking pro wrestling here. So yeah, there's no rules. So Eva Marie, I mean, the fact that she's got that sweet, over-the-top intro that just makes people hate her.
Ridiculous.
It's perfect for a heel.
Everything red.
All red everything. And the fact that I just assumed that this voiceover announcer who did her opening was a pre-recorded thing. But then she leaves for the wardrobe malfunction, and she comes back out to distract from the match that's happening between Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch. And the same announcer is like, Eva Marie is now ready to wrestle after her wardrobe. It's like they got this guy there on salary. Maybe he does other things for the company. I don't know. I just thought it was cool that he's ready to go live in case they have
in gorilla position watching the monitors.
Exactly.
Wow.
I think it's cool. It's part of the theater that we love of pro wrestling. So anyway, check out Theater in the Ring or Theater in Ring at Twitter. We're on Facebook too at Slobberknocker Pod.
Yeah, give us some
Podcast.
Go to our Facebook page.
We
the
know,
Slobberknocker.
we know there are millions. And millions! Literally, we're not kidding about this. Pro wrestling podcasts out there for you to gobble up. It seems to be a thing. I mean, pro wrestling fans love their podcasts. They love to do their podcasts. So we know that there are a wide variety of options, of listening options for the pro wrestling fan. If you are listening to this right now, we thank you. Keep listening, spread the word.
Like it, love it, share it, tell your friends and family.
There's going to be a lot more original content as well, showing off sort of our more unique talents that I feel like not a lot of wrestling podcasters do. If you listened to our episode last week, we had an original cover of the Sexy Boy, Shawn Michaels theme song. We're going to hope to do those on every episode. Probably not this week. It's been a week for both of us.
It's been a week.
Man,
oh, man.
Today I went to 2 dentist appointments.
And one
two
sounds
separate
awful.
offices.
One in general sounds awful.
No one wants to go to one dentist appointment. I had 2 dentist appointments and an audition/interview. It doesn't sound like a lot to people who are really busy, but for a guy who most of the time just like works, 4 or 5 shifts a week and then just watches wrestling the rest of the time in between auditions, it was a day for me. So I'm ready to talk about pro wrestling.
And we're doing that.
Let's. One thing I wanted to mention as well. You heard our awesome opening theme song. You'll hear our awesome opening or our closing theme song. Both of those songs are written and produced by an amazing band. They're still doing it, not as much as they were back, when I think we were in college and I was really digging them. They're called The Poets Dance. The Poets Dance out of Rockford, Illinois.
One of my favorite bands. Like seriously,
Really,
one of my favorite bands.
We're biased, obviously. It's actually
we know them.
Yeah, my girlfriend's brother is one of the members of the band, one of the founders and lead singers.
We have some other friends that are in the group
Absolutely,
too.
We've
seen them live.
They're all outstanding guys, and we wanted to sort of.
And they are cool with us using their songs.
We were
for
given
our podcast.
full
we were given permission.
from at least one member of the Poets
one.
Dance. So we might be creating heat between the other members of the Poets Dance.
We'll see. We'll have them on.
But if they don't like it,
we got 2 words for them. Suck it!
Yeah, you know what it is.
But seriously, we really like the guys of the Poets Dance, and
great.
we do appreciate. No,
Check
I
out their
love
music. They're on iTunes. MySpace. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. But
The Poets Dance.
The Poets Dance, and the first song was Center Stage, which is great. Which is an amazing song, timeless. And we've got Careless Breakdown is the song that is our outro. It's just perfect stuff for pro wrestling, and we hope to maybe highlight a little bit more of their stuff, or even any listener music. If you're listening to this
and you have a theme song that you want to write for us, do it.
Email, tweet us out, whatever it is. We're actually at the Slobberknocker Podcast at Gmail. Hit us up on Twitter. Have any recommendations for something you want us to cover? We are willing to be podcasters of the people,
of course.
Of the Slobberknocker Universe. So love to the Poets Dance. I just wanted to get them over a little bit.
The Slobberknocker Podcast. The flagship podcast of theater in the ring. Story over everything. Theater so good, it hurts.
We sort of want to get into the top story here. If you've listened to any pro wrestling podcast over the past week, you've heard about this story about a guy named Conor McGregor.
Conor McGregor. He's been causing a lot of heat the past few days.
WWE.
And it's so funny. For those of you that may not know about it, I'll just get you up to speed real quick. As we know, there's been a lot of controversy in regards to Brock Lesnar failing a drug test, which has been a huge deal. Mark Hunt, who faced Brock Lesnar at UFC 200, is really pissed off about it. He says he wants half of Brock Lesnar's pay.
Good luck, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and go to Brock's house in Saskatchewan, Canada, and try to get that money from him.
Knock on the front gate of the compound.
Excuse me, is this Mr. Lesnar's house? Sable answers the door. Yeah, that's like... Brock Lesnar lives in Saskatchewan, Canada with Sable, and I was just like, man, aside from Saskatchewan, like living in the middle of nowhere with Sable, like that's my boyhood dream right there.
Yeah.
He's living out my childhood dream with the exception of having guns and shooting animals and beating people up. and being a whole freak of nature. But that's besides the point.
Mark Marrow's got to be a real bitter guy.
He's going around the country like giving motivational speeches.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just about life?
Just about himself and like what he did. I guess he got into like drugs and alcohol when he was a wrestler. Not surprised.
I can't remember. I know Sable was his manager. Were they together?
They were together.
That's what
I think they might have actually been married.
Because her last name was Marrow, wasn't it?
Because she became way more popular than he did, and that was clear. And
then she
there was a huge falling out
with Brock Lesnar.
She's been with Brock Lesnar for years.
Beast incarnate. They're married, right?
They are married. Yeah, they've got like 2 or 3 kids.
God damn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Little beasts.
Yeah, they've got some beasts incarnates.
They really
running around
do.
that house.
So Conor McGregor, he opened his mouth. He fired away on Twitter. And I think this sort of stemmed, from an interview that he did, which is where the comments initially got mentioned, where they sort of were mentioning if there were any sort of future possibilities involving him and pro wrestling in WWE. And he took some shots at people. He said, everyone there are kind of pussies.
He said he'd slap their heads off.
Well, that's what he said in the tweet, sort of responding to what he said. But he had said, the only Dons are like Triple H and
Vince McMahon
and Stephanie. He called
I think he
someone
might
else
have given
The
the
Rock.
nod to The Rock.
The Rock, of course.
He
He's
called
cool.
him the
He's
Don.
legit. Everyone else are pussies. He's going to slap the heads off.
And this has been caused an uproar in the world of WWE, which totally makes sense.
It's great. It's what you want.
Exactly. But when you think about it, I feel like UFC and WWE have been doing what they can to try to avoid each other for a long time, specifically WWE trying to avoid UFC.
Really? Okay.
But with Brock Lesnar fighting at UFC 200, and then we have CM Punk who's going to make his UFC debut at UFC 203 versus Mickey Gall. And then, of course...
Yeah, I saw that little documentary trailer.
I feel like... me too, which I can't wait to watch. And I feel like this right here, especially with Ronda Rousey, she was at
I was going to say, it seemed like they're really trying to get her involved somehow.
And it's just like, I feel like the crossover between the two of them is really inevitable, And it's not, we know that WWE is sports entertainment.
Right.
But there are some legit badasses that are involved in WWE and pro wrestling in general, but we're focusing.
A lot of them have backgrounds in
WWE.
MMA or amateur wrestling.
Absolutely. And when you think about it,
I think Conor McGregor knows this.
Yes.
And he's a businessman. He knows how to get heat. He wants to make money.
Beautiful, brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Whether it's a work or not, it doesn't matter
And I
because
think
it's getting a lot of
it's been
heat.
reported, the god of pro wrestling reporting, Dave Meltzer at the Wrestling Observer, I'm not sure how he gets this information. He comes out.
No idea.
He comes out and says this is not a work. This is completely a shoot that he's doing. It maybe opens up the possibilities more for some sort of WWE appearance in the future down the road, but it's not some sort of work, because I know people have, they're thinking conspiracy, because I think Conor McGregor follows Vince and Stephanie and Triple H on Twitter.
Well, they're the Dons, so he would follow them
or something. But however Meltzer found that out, he found it out conclusively that this is not anything that the WWE is trying to do as far as the storyline goes. But it does open up the possibilities for a crap ton of money making, depending on who you can match him up against.
And they could have been doing this for years,
Sure.
I remember seeing interviews.
Well, Conor McGregor's the type.
CM Punk
it's not going to work with
every.
with every UFC fighter.
No.
But guys who can cut a promo like McGregor, guys.
absolutely.
And you saw that on Twitter how the Nature Boy Ric Flair called him out.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks or you're welcome for your gimmick,
Absolutely.
buddy.
And he named 3 dudes that could legit whoop some ass, and Brock Lesnar, Fit Finlay, and Dolph Ziggler.
And there's more.
Oh, there's way. When you think about the people that have left WWE to pursue MMA, you've got Bobby Lashley, you've got Dave Bautista, and then also there are other people in the world of pro wrestling that have done MMA, like. What's his name?
Alberto
Del Rio. Yeah, he's an MMA fighter.
They were just getting him over on SmackDown about that.
Yeah.
Mauro Ranallo was talking about calling some of his fights in Japan.
Or even Shinsuke Nakamura.
Right.
He's an MMA fighter.
Crossed over. There's plenty.
There's Daniel Bryan.
Sure.
He does jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. When you consider the training for the UFC versus the training for the WWE, people who are in WWE are on the road 300 plus days a year. I feel like they rarely find time to work out and prepare for their matches, let alone trying to go in for 2 workouts a day doing jiu-jitsu and cardio cardio and kickboxing and like all the other stuff that you need to do to prepare for a fight, which UFC fighters fight like 2, maybe 3 times a year.
Right.
And you've got pro wrestlers that fight 300 plus
That's what I
times
think
a year.
when if Conor McGregor is and he is, we know this, adept at getting heat, and cutting promos and being this character, which may or may not be a larger than life version of himself. Either way, he knows how to sell tickets. He knows how to create heat.
And that's like,
and I don't know if that's true, because we talk about the fact that guys like Brock, guys like now Punk, who are transitioning over into MMA, into UFC. I mean, we've seen it the other way a few times. I feel like not as much.
Ken Shamrock was in the UFC and he came over. Steve Blackman wasn't in the, but Dan Severn,
I'm thinking
Dan
of
the Beast
Severn,
Severn,
yeah,
he
the
was
Beast.
in there. And that was like more so in like the late 90s, early 2000s when UFC was first starting to get popular.
And they went into pro wrestling very much on the strength of their careers as UFC fighters. I don't know if there's another guy who's like, and again, I don't watch UFC as much as you or Ryan does, but I don't know if there's another guy like Conor McGregor who has that natural charisma and promo cutting ability,
larger than life personality,
that would just translate perfectly into the world of pro wrestling, and he's got the athletic acumen to back it up.
And to be honest, I don't know how many UFC fighters have the patience to do that sort of thing. I mean,
I don't know if he does, but
I don't know either. But I mean, you look at a guy like Brock Lesnar, who is an absolute beast at what he does, but like, when he was first in the WWE, he hated it. He hated traveling. He hated the company. He hated people. I mean, I'm sure he still does hate people.
Seems
which
like
is
it.
why, like, when he comes back, he's an attraction, which is why he's not around very often. He'd rather be in Saskatchewan with Sable shooting animals, on his land as opposed to be traveling. And
more
I
power
wouldn't
to
mind
him.
that life
If you're in that position of power where you can dictate those sort of rules, I'm not mad at you.
But he's a once in a lifetime freak of nature athlete.
Yeah.
So I mean, like Paul Heyman says all the time, Brock does what Brock Lesnar wants.
That's
to
another
do.
thing. Was it on Raw or SmackDown that they had the video package hyping the Lesnar Orton match?
It could have been both, but I mean,
Maybe they
Brock
played it
is
on
a
both.
Raw guy, so I mean, Heyman and Brock were out there.
I think it was Raw. It was a pre-filmed package where they were both talking in different locations, but Heyman was sort of like flanked to the back of Lesnar and chiming in, and Lesnar talked more than he normally does, and it was very effective to me.
Yes.
I mean, this is one case where, and we talked about it briefly on last week's episode with Paris, but just how they were able to so quickly make that storyline something so much more appealing than it was for me personally before.
Well, this is a great segue into talking about SummerSlam as well, because we have this build-up between Randy Orton and Brock Lesnar, or build-up, so to speak.
Right.
They keep saying it's 15 years in the making.
That was what they were going with at first, before last week, the whole RKO out of nowhere.
And that was the thing that got me, was just like, as a fan, I'm like, what do you mean 15 years in the making? Yeah, I know that they went through OVW together. They got signed to WWE pretty much the exact same time, made their debuts around the exact same time.
That's an anomaly. It's not something to base a whole...
Yeah, exactly.
Especially
and that was
a
just
pay-per-view.
But when you look at all the guys, like, there were 4 guys that they had at OVW that they were putting a lot of their, 5 technically, they had at the same time come in Brock Lesnar, Dave Bautista, John Cena, Randy Orton, and Shelton Benjamin. Those were 5 guys that came in that they were putting a lot of money and attention into. Oh, absolutely. So I think it's just so happens to be that they start at the same time. And as far as their careers are concerned in WWE, the trajectory was kind of similar in the sense that they were both like 2 of the very youngest superstars to ever be the champion.
Orton was the youngest champ, right?
You know what? He was the youngest champ, but I don't know if Lesnar won it later and was younger and became the youngest champ.
They explained that in that video package, but I can't remember.
Well, who knows? It's 15 years in the making.
Either way.
There's a lot to keep up with. But I would say the one thing that really solidified this this feud between the two of them, this match for me, was that last week on SmackDown when Randy Orton just did the RKO out of nowhere. And it's amazing to see that they're going to have 2 guys from 2 completely different brands going to compete at SummerSlam together. But also, like, Paul Heyman just did an unbelievable job of building that up. And guess what? That RKO did come out of nowhere. Nobody was seeing that.
I mean, the timing could not have been more perfect.
And that's Randy Orton in a nutshell. His timing is perfect.
Yeah, and a lot to do with Paul Heyman and his delivery.
Absolutely.
And that is one match going in, one story going into SummerSlam that I was not excited about when it was announced. It was sort of like, this seems cheap. It just seems like Orton's coming back. We need someone for Lesnar. Throw him at him. Maybe people will care. But they've done a good job of creating. And again, even when they mentioned when Orton first came back and did his first promo post brand split, when he was talking about, the RKO out of nowhere. He had the shirt with the hashtag on it. I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
The RKO is not. It's a cool finisher, but it's not like as much of an equalizer as they're making it out to be.
Yeah.
I didn't believe it until, I don't even think Lesnar even sold that RKO that well, as if to say, like, he couldn't have got a 3 count on him in that moment. I mean, he immediately rolled out of the ring after the RKO, I feel like.
What he did is he lied on the ground and then he rolled over to the post, to one of the ring posts.
He's going to kick out of that in a match.
He just stood in the ring and watched him as Randy Orton ran up the steps in the audience, and I was just like, why is Brock Lesnar not chasing after Randy Orton?
Or
anybody in the locker room that came out, why are they not chasing after him? Security?
You don't want to see the Beast Incarnate laying there with his arms out on the apron, completely passed out. But if you're trying to sell the RKO, all it takes is one RKO and you're headed to Viperville, then he needs to sell it that way in that segment. That being said, it didn't take much away from it for me. It was still cool, it was still exciting, and it raised the stakes so much that even though it's kind of a cheap gimmick, especially so soon after they split brands of a guy coming over to the other brand, it just really worked for me. I can't tell you any other extremely scientific reason why. It just raised the stakes enough that Orton showing up on SmackDown wasn't as exciting, but it still served its purpose.
And that was the thing that got me. It was just like, of course, Brock Lesnar's going to show up on SmackDown. Like, it wasn't nearly as much of a surprise or as exciting as what Randy Orton did.
And I kind of don't blame them for not trying to make it as big of a surprise. We all knew it was going to happen. It needed to happen, or else it wouldn't have seemed fair. It wouldn't have seemed right. And for whatever reason, they took a storyline that I was not excited about. And I'm not like, this is the match I'm living for SummerSlam. Yeah. But I'm excited to watch that match now. I'm not really sure how they're going to book it. I feel like you gotta. I feel like Lesnar cannot pin. I feel like Orton can't pin Lesnar in this match. I have a feeling Lesnar is going to get over in the match, but the fact that I can't predict it surely. Before I was just like, oh, Lesnar's going to win. He came off of that UFC. They're gonna position him as even more of a beast now after he wins in the cage. But he kind of gets popped. There's with the whole testing thing. Yeah, you just don't know. It kind of turns him into even more of a heel. And the way that they're pushing Orton as sort of being the main guy at SmackDown, because as we know, John Cena is going to be taking some time off, being a part-time performer. Yep. You sort of need that name recognition to bring the kids or whoever in. And right now you have in Randy Orton a extremely well-recognized name, and you have a baby face, which he's doing pretty well at. So,
and that's the thing that gets me is like,
I care about the story going into it.
John Cena is going back to film season 2 of American Grit, like he did before when he was taking time off. But also the match between Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton, I am curious to see who they decide make win this match, because regardless of what the outcome is, Brock Lesnar, whether he wins or loses, is going to go back home to Saskatchewan. Right. And we won't see him for who knows how long.
So who needs to win this?
And then Randy Orton is going to be with the company traveling with SmackDown 300 plus days of the year.
You're trying to make somebody the face of your business, of your brand going forward, unless... Because I just don't see Dean Ambrose as being the face of SmackDown.
I feel like they still need to build him up more. Like, I'm glad he's the champion, and like, but the thing is like, here's another thing I wanted to bring up, and I'm glad you brought up Dean Ambrose, because I kind of wonder how many people in the locker room want to work with Brock Lesnar, and I don't necessarily say that out of fear that they have for Brock Lesnar, but the more I read about Brock Lesnar and how he is working with him now, it makes me wonder if anybody wants to work with him, because even Dean Ambrose was saying in the interview, which I read about, the interview I had with Stone Cold Steve Austin on the podcast, he was just like, he had all these ideas going into WrestleMania for the match, and he's like, let's try this, let's talk about this and this and this and this and this. And Brock Lesnar was just like, nope. Brock Lesnar was just like, I'm gonna do what I want to do. And Dean Ambrose went out there just being like, we didn't plan anything.
Right.
It's like we're just gonna call it in the ring.
I really feel like that dud of a match at WrestleMania really hurt Dean Ambrose.
Yes, me too.
Going forward,
Brock
you're trying
Lesnar
to position him
as
this sort of hardcore lunatic fringe. He could do anything. Yeah. So it makes sense that you put him in a match with a beast Brock Lesnar because he's got no fear, bro. I'm just like crazy, dude. I can do whatever.
But 13 suplexes and then one F5 and then the match is over with.
Sloppy.
Like Dean Ambrose got barely any offense on him.
Ambrose was honest about that, which I respected him for because he's saying, I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave a body of work that is extremely impressive when people look back on my career. And when you're going into a match at WrestleMania, the biggest stage of them all in pro wrestling, against the biggest draw in pro wrestling, Brock Lesnar, you automatically assume that this is going to be one of, if not the highlight of your career thus far. Yeah. And when that doesn't happen, was that Brock's last match in WWE, or has he wrestled since WrestleMania?
I can't even remember. I think that was the last one since Mania.
Yeah, well, we could be wrong, but I don't think he's wrestled since WrestleMania.
He didn't wrestle at Battleground,
and that could have developed some sort of a new reputation for him. Guys,
he could have been spending that time
because
training for UFC.
I think it was widely known that he was a good worker before that. I mean, he put on great matches with a lot of people. I mean, he's a draw for a reason, not just his size. Like, he can work in the ring.
His amateur wrestling background.
Yeah, even his stuff with Roman Reigns was good. Yeah. I mean, so you go into that match with Dean Ambrose thinking anything could happen. It's the lunatic fringe, and it just wasn't. So I appreciated his honesty on the Stone Cold podcast where that was concerned, and you might be right. There might be a popular opinion in the locker room based on that WrestleMania match that Lesnar's not as into this. He never really was in the first place.
He's just into the paycheck.
If he's just going to say, like, put me over and let's call it in the ring, I mean, I hope that doesn't happen at SummerSlam. You want to see something awesome happen. Obviously, we're all thinking, the F5 into the RKO somehow, but
I don't want it to be like 15, 20 minutes of Brock Lesnar picking up Randy Orton and throwing him around.
Which is interesting because we're talking about this from a storyline perspective, and we'll get it. I mean, we'll get into Raw and SmackDown when we talk about this because we really want to look at the SummerSlam card that's been announced this far. And since we're a story-based podcast and we're a story-based network, Theater in the Ring, I really want to look at the matches that have been announced so far for SummerSlam and how they've approached these characters and these storylines on Raw and SmackDown in the lead up to SummerSlam, and if they've done a good job, if we care about these matches, and if we don't care about these stories, can they do anything in the next week and what?
Yeah, exactly.
On Raw and SmackDown to manufacture to raise the stakes of these matches and make us care a little bit more. Because I'm looking down the card that's been announced so far, and there are some holes as far as storylines go for me. So we talked obviously right away about Lesnar
versus Orton.
and Orton, and there's some other interesting layers going on because I know you didn't get a chance to see SmackDown last night. You read about it.
Yeah.
There was a match between Alberto Del Rio and why am I blanking on this now? Who are we just talking about? Freaking Randy Orton, of course. Come on, man. Again,
an RKO out of nowhere.
Two dentists.
Two dentist appointments.
Yes, that was
then here. Oh, an audition. Then here.
Exactly. This was a match that happened last night on SmackDown Live. Yeah. It was Alberto Del Rio and who was the
Randy
guy again?
Orton.
Yeah, Randy Orton, of course.
In Viperville.
And it was a nice little match. It was a nice match. It was really good. I was entertained by it, but more importantly, it positioned Alberto Del Rio as somebody who can really hang with a guy like Randy Orton.
Yeah.
When up until this, there's been questions with Alberto Del Rio. Is his contract's coming to an end? Is he going to stay with the company? Is he going to go back to Lucha? What's he going to do? And a lot of people have been sort of thinking, and rumors have been swirling that WWE is sort of going to push him in the opposite direction because he's sort of phasing out of his contract and his career at WWE. Last night on SmackDown, I got the opposite impression.
Interesting.
They really did position him. He looked really good in his match against Orton. And
he's not bad, especially when you get the right person in the ring with him.
And what I mean, you might know this. What is it? A Kimura lock that Del Rio does, an arm lock submission.
Was that
maneuver?
the one where he jumps and spins around? Yeah,
I think so.
Arm bar.
But he was getting that move over in their little promo before the match, saying like, "Oh, you can't do an RKO if I break your arm."
Yeah.
Like, and that he really made that a part of his ring psychology in that match, just going after that arm of Orton and putting it on the steel post and everything. It turned out to be a DQ match, which I liked too, because chair shots and he was going to throw him on the table, and I was just like, yeah, this is intense. Like this is not what I thought was going to happen in an Alberto Del Rio match. I thought maybe he'd get a couple sequences of offense, but it'd mostly be Orton sort of building himself up going into SummerSlam. But they really did position Del Rio to make me think, if I'm looking at this from a story perspective, that he's going to be involved somehow, that he's going to keep attacking Randy Orton, keep going after his arm, something, I don't know, to get him to sort of position himself in this title picture as a main event type guy, because
it wouldn't be a bad storyline.
Well, and Alberto Del Rio has all of the ability in the world to do that. I mean,
he's such a good heel.
Even with English not being his native language, he cuts a great promo.
Have you heard him talk in his real voice before?
Yes,
it's completely different than the way he speaks.
It's a character, which and of course,
and I love that.
I love when wrestlers can bring a hearty portion of themselves into a character, or even when it's just a sort of larger than life version of themselves. But when you see a wrestler really creating a character apart from themselves and doing it consistently, Lana, that it impresses me so much, because we're actors, and obviously I'm impressed by the athleticism that these men and women show me on a daily basis. But that's what you go into it expecting to see.
Yeah.
You don't always expect like acting, and for people who don't hear Alberto Del Rio speak, in his everyday life, you don't know that this is a character that this guy has created. It's awesome.
Completely threw me off when I first heard his interview.
Maybe if you want to keep him around and you want to build him up, you got to strengthen that character again. I mean, I know he used to be like a rich guy from Mexico.
And you know what?
Whatever. Maybe that's not the thing, because they got the Miz showing up in Lamborghinis or whatever the hell he was doing.
But they dropped that. They dropped a gimmick with Alberto Del Rio years ago, like back in 2010 or 11, like, because he used to come in with those cars, and
he
used to have like
his own announcer.
Yeah, he had his own Roberto Rodriguez, I believe his name was, who was a luchador.
So maybe you don't need to go, maybe you rebrand him a little bit because you don't want it to be stale. A little character reset,
or evolve
something.
his character.
But he doesn't need much work.
No,
really. I mean, you got the framework for it there, and you're bringing over the Latino viewership, which is important for the company as well. I mean, you've got guys like Sin Cara and Carlito or whatever, but I mean, Alberto Del Rio is Kalisto. I'm sorry, Carlito is he's somebody that they talked about bringing back.
He used to have an afro, and he'd be like, "I spit in the face of people who don't want to be
talked about bringing him back.
He's on the indie circuit somewhere.
Yeah,
he might. He might come back. Look at all the mid carders that they're trying to bring back.
He's one of the names that
now.
they floated around. Like, I mean, they floated around MVP. They floated. I mean, obviously you saw like Jinder Mahal came back, whatever. But
Rhino's back.
God, Rhino.
Gore. He's like governor, or he's held some political position.
He just won
in Michigan
for Congress, I think, in Michigan as a Republican.
I would love to see him gore some mofos if he had to.
Right, but I did love the fact that they're bringing that over into storyline. They're not just glossing over the fact that fucking Rhino, this dude is a politician.
Yeah,
JBL was great on this last episode of SmackDown. I don't always love JBL, but I think post brand split, JBL is really coming to his own.
He's not a bad heel commentator.
He had some funny lines about Rhino being a politician and stealing his wallet and damn politicians. He had some other one-liners that I really enjoyed. I didn't make notes of them, but that's just an aside about JBL. Good job. He's not always great, but I think
he's got his moments.
I think that the commentating teams are sort of coming into their own, with the exception of David
Otunga. I was just gonna say, if they got rid of David Otunga on there, then things would be great.
It's just like this little sheepish voice that sort of points something out every once in a while.
Well, not only that, but they're like, "What do you think, David?" And he's just like, "Yeah, wrestling is cool."
And everything that he says is countered by JBL or Morrow as like, well, he may not be a Harvard graduate, but at least he's in the, whatever. It's like,
I don't understand why they wanted to keep him around, and we're like, what would be a great idea? Let's take David Otunga and put him on commentary, because that's exactly what the WWE universe
I'd rather see the
wants.
King. I'd rather see Jerry Law. I'd rather see Renee. I mean, let's have a woman commentate on the table. But
Yeah, that'd
anyway,
be awesome. When are they gonna have their first female?
It needs to happen because
color commentator?
There's plenty of people who are women who are qualified.
Absolutely.
Not just
Renee Young
not
is a
just
great one
the
to
company,
throw in the
but
mix, though.
Renee Young would be great, and and maybe they're working her up towards that unless she jumps ship and goes to ESPN, which I'm pretty sure they want. That I've heard that ESPN sort of actively pursues Renee Young all the time, and she'd be great in that medium as well.
Yeah.
I don't remember what we were talking about before I got off on the JBL.
We were talking about Alberto Del Rio.
If he can be a main event type guy, what he's doing with him in relation to the Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton storyline going into SummerSlam. Will there be more of that next week? Who knows? We'll see going into it. Besides that match, which was, I think, probably like the first match that was announced on that card, going down, you've obviously, the top of the bill is the two title matches. You've got the WWE Championship and you've got the
Universal Championship, which is, we got Finn Balor versus Rollins for the Universal Championship, and then we have Dean Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler for the WWE Championship.
So these are our two sort of top of the card matches based on what brand you're talking about. Let's start with Raw. We've got the first ever Universal Champion being crowned at SummerSlam. The rookie from NXT, Finn Balor, versus the man, Seth Rollins. So
come on, I'm Seth Rollins.
Obviously, you got a jump shot of adrenaline going into this storyline with the big first Raw post draft. You had Finn Balor's debut. I mean, really one of the greatest episodes of Raw in recent history, and we're not exaggerating when we say that.
But also
it was a pay-per-view caliber,
one of the greatest debuts of a superstar as well.
And I don't say that as like, wow, it was great how they debuted him as a surprise or whatever, because they just paraded him out there and he popped his collar 8 times.
Which was like, come on, why couldn't you just like wait for the big pop when he plays
I don't know if we talked about it, yeah, but why not just say we're gonna do this match right now and send everyone backstage first and then have them come out one at a time?
Because
Finn Balor enters last and our mind is blown.
They had to enter the ring, Stephanie and Mick, and be like, we want all the superstars to come out here. It's like, no, because we know right now you're ruining the entrance and the debut of a superstar.
And I do think that they're trying to take into account, they're not thinking first about internet wrestling fans. They're not thinking first about smarky people like us or whatever you want to call it who are hosting podcasts. They're talking about they're trying to appeal to the fans who do not watch NXT. Yeah. The younger set of fans in the WWE universe. And maybe if you just bring him out cold without any sort of intro or hype, people get lost. People don't know what's going on. So you make it more straightforward. Our last competitor in the match is this guy, Finn Balor, and then the announcers can sort of get him over. But that episode of Raw really did jumpstart that feud because you have him go over two really top guys. When you say it was the best debut in recent history, that's what we mean. I mean, he gets over two huge guys in the company, not just in physical stature, but in their clout in the company. So that immediately parachutes Finn Balor to the top of the card.
Especially with Roman Reigns saying at the end of their match, which is the second match after he beat him, he was just like, I want to wrestle him again. I got a lot of respect for that guy.
Right.
And
it gets him over.
Say what you want to about Roman Reigns. We sure as hell do.
Yeah.
But like that's a big thing to get someone like Finn Balor over.
Absolutely. So you've got a lot of steam going into it, and then on the next week of Raw, you got the two guys in the ring together, and I know we talked about this a little bit. You know, are they going to have these guys touch beforehand? Are they gonna grapple at all? You know, are we going to get sort of a feel of what they are together in the ring, or are we going to keep it very much like the mystery alive, so that there's that much heat going into the match at SummerSlam? They didn't really do that. They had promos together. And they ended with Finn Balor coming out on top with that sort of cool reverse drop kick thing that he does.
Oh, yeah.
And so he came out on top of the first episode of Raw, which is building that storyline.
Yep.
And to me, the storyline lost heat from the first episode of Raw.
With that promo?
I thought that Rollins completely outshined Finn Balor on the mic.
Of course.
Which isn't a surprise, but the intensity was so much stronger for Rollins, so that sort of made it lose a little bit of esteem for me, and they fought a little bit, so I'm like, okay, and then so it lost a little bit of steam last week, and then you have this past episode of Raw where they did not have any in-ring interaction, but you had a video package. You saw that, right?
And then of course Seth Rollins came out and cut like a huge promo, which is good.
And I'm never nervous about Seth Rollins cutting a promo. I have mixed reaction to the video package, sort of, which I think the whole purpose of that video package was to introduce the demon character aspect of Finn Balor's character.
And they keep building it up like, is the demon going to be unleashed at SummerSlam?
And when we're talking about storyline and not unnecessarily muddling the storyline, I don't know why they just didn't debut the demon in his debut on Raw. He's got 2 matches, and they get increasingly. His first match was Rusev, right?
Well, his first match was
it was a triple threat.
It was all 4.
Oh, God, I'm
it was
forgetting
4
everything.
of them.
There's too much wrestling.
Because there were 8 men selected.
Fatal 4-way. There's 2, right?
Yeah, and then he won the first round, and then he went on to win the second one.
All you have to do, cut a small promo, interview, whatever, after you win the first match. Oh, you got to face Roman Reigns. Like, this is going to be... How do you feel about going up against Roman? Well, I don't know. I've never fought a man like Roman, but I might have to dig deeper and find a different part of myself to bring out against him. And then all of a sudden, the fucking demon comes out. You already saw him make one entrance as Finn, then you see the demon. Everybody knows. It's not muddled.
There's 2 characters.
You don't have to create a video package to introduce this character, which was interesting and very well done. Felt a little bit like I was watching like a video at school or something where they're teaching me about Irish mythology and the background of his names and everything. Which, again, it was interesting, it was cool, it was very well done. I wouldn't mind seeing more things like that to hype storylines and feuds, but it didn't do... I just thought if you're going to just debut the demon on the first episode...
It didn't do anything to enhance that specific storyline
to build it even more, to raise the stakes even more so leading into...
I agree.
I mean, we're only 2 weeks out of... And SummerSlam is not just another pay-per-view. It's one of the big 3.
And I'm excited about SummerSlam
there's a lot of good
matches, pay-per-view, but
I really want to see
not a whole lot to build up to
something else on Raw.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. Vince, if you want my ideas, hire me and I'll
hire both of us.
We
come as a package deal.
Absolutely. We'll take one salary
for the 2 of us.
But
until we prove our worth.
Absolutely. Then we'll talk about a raise maybe. But yeah, I hope they do something else on Raw to raise the stakes. Whether it's another promo where Rollins comes out on top. I don't know if the club gets involved. If they do, are they saving it for SummerSlam? Are they going to have the club turn on Balor and help out Rollins? That could be really interesting.
And there's talks of Kenny Omega possibly coming in.
I don't think that's going to happen at SummerSlam.
Not SummerSlam. That's a bit too soon. But if we're talking about what AJ Styles said, is that the club isn't being broken up, but just expanding.
If they get Kenny Omega,
huge.
I mean. And then you've got like I don't remember what the rest of the Bullet Club is. It's like the Bucks after that, the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
But they can get
all of them. Be like another NWO.
What a coup!
They've got the rights to NWO,
and it would be perfect.
It would be amazing. It'd be too sweet.
And they already fucking do
they do it. I mean, they do it all the time.
Just give us
Gallows
what we
and Anderson.
want,
They do it all the time.
So we don't know. There's a lot of possibilities that can raise the stakes going into, and this is the Universal title.
Yes.
This might be the main event of the whole goddamn show.
Yes.
So they can't just have a run-of-the-mill. I'm gonna beat you. No, I'm gonna beat you, and then Rollins gets a pedigree off on him and then leaves. It's just not gonna be enough because this is the go-home show on Raw to leading into SummerSlam. You got to give me something that's gonna make me be real jazzed about this match, other than the fact that these are 2 excellent in-ring performers. Because sometimes you can get away with that with NXT, with Nakamura and Sami Zayn, which we talk about all the time because I'm such a freaking nerd for that match. But you didn't need any storyline. It was just like, this guy is debuting.
Yeah.
It's going to be, maybe if you save Balor's debut for SummerSlam, then that can be the whole story.
Yeah.
This insane superstar from NXT has earned this right. I don't know how you write that in the storyline, but then you can fall back on that as being the only story that there is. But I need something else to intrigue me a little bit more than just like, Finn Balor is the cheap imitation of me. That's cute, It's like it gives him a little bit more. But I feel like if you're gonna catapult, skyrocket Finn Balor to the status that he's at right now. He needs some more layers than just being like, I'm an underdog, and the only thing that's gonna happen is me kicking your ass. Like, okay,
you're gonna have your ass handed to you at SummerSlam.
It's all very just run of the mill.
And it's not to say that we don't think this match isn't gonna be good. I think this is gonna be a phenomenal match.
No matter what,
but
in ring, the physicality, the wrestling, the physical storytelling is gonna be. I really am confident it's gonna be amazing.
The story leading up to this match is just like, I'm not really sure what there is to be excited about.
So I would like to see something fun, exciting, surprising happen with that story,
especially
going into
for
SummerSlam.
Finn Balor to pull something out.
Finn Balor needs something
well.
else. Finn Balor needs, and maybe, and I think the Demon would have done that. If we would have already seen the Demon, we don't know which one we're gonna get at SummerSlam, but it's already like, you're gonna see the Demon.
We're gonna get the Demon clearly.
So
they made a video package
more about
for
it. I've never seen the Demon. If I've never watched NXT before, I don't really know what that is. It hypes it a little bit, and again, I will eat crow on this if I talk to somebody who doesn't watch NXT or a younger fan who is like, no, I loved it. It's exactly what I wanted. I'm so intrigued. I can't wait to see the match. Then I'll eat crow, because again, like, we're adults. We're looking at this from a story perspective, and we're also not kids. So we're not actively being having the wool thrown over our eyes where this is concerned.
Yeah.
You know, we know who this guy is. We know his reputation, so we expect more. So it's sort of unfair sometimes with the internet wrestling community, how much griping we do, how much complaining we do. It's all with a grain of salt, you know. We're gonna watch it no matter what.
And I honestly forget sometimes when I watch Raw and SmackDown and see NXT stars being drafted into the main roster, I forget that there are wrestling fans out there that don't follow NXT.
Most of them probably don't.
You know, it's
most
just like,
of them.
Oh, okay, great.
I would say the casual wrestling fan, like a dad or whatever, who watches with his kid, or kids who watch it, they've got cable. They're watching USA Network. They probably don't even have the network. I mean, I feel like the bulk of the majority of people who have the network are people like us, you know, adult fans who are.
I mean, the tables have turned with my dad and I, where he was the one introducing me to pro wrestling and telling me about all these pro wrestlers. But now it's turned a little bit where I'm the one explaining to him who all these new stars from NXT are that are coming up to the main roster. Especially like explaining NXT and CWC to him and who all these people are.
Right.
Like, you know, that to me is a lot of fun too.
They have we expect the storylining to be so fluid because we watch these other shows.
Yes.
But these writers do really have to keep in mind, the bulk of our audience is probably not watching these programs. So we have to build these storylines for this audience. And maybe they've done a better job of that than I'm aware of, because I do watch everything.
I have a feeling that maybe the TV rating or anything like that is probably different from NXT to WWE. And they certainly focus more on the wrestling side of it than they do on like the promos and the storylines and stuff, which maybe they need to focus on a little bit because we see guys like Apollo Crews, who's just like not really that great on the mic, but is great in the ring. Oh, I know we will.
Apollo. So Balor Rollins, we don't need to make a prediction on this. We still have another week of television before we get to this. I say next week we make predictions on these because we'll have another week of storytelling going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then that's one of the main events. The other main event we can assume is going to be the champion, the WWE World Champion, the Lunatic Fringe Dean Ambrose
versus Dolph Ziggler. I'm here to show the world. I'm the best. I'm the best at everything I do.
I said here to save the world. I meant show the world. But I think he's here to save the world too.
I think he's here to show the world he's going to save it. Mom, I won the match.
So Dolph is getting a rejuvenated push. His character has sort of hit reset.
Yeah.
He's not the fun-loving Dolph we've all come to know and love as this mid-card guy getting bigger guys over. He's got a new fire about him, and that's one of my favorite qualities.
I love it.
Especially in a babyface wrestler, when they're fun-loving, they've got the crowd behind them, they're boisterous, they're outgoing, but they have a switch. Well, and when that switch is activated, it's not goofy, it's not Hulk Hogan over the top. It's this guy can fucking kill me. This guy can kill me. He was joking around before, but holy shit, now I'm afraid of him. And I don't think I don't think everybody is very effective at doing that. And Dolph Ziggler has thus far, because when he first got that push, when we knew he was the #1 contender on that first episode of SmackDown after the draft, as much as I'm a fan of Dolph Ziggler and I was happy for him as a person getting this push, it didn't make sense to me story-wise. I was just like, I know who Dolph Ziggler is as a character, and then I know who AJ Styles is, and I know who Bray Wyatt is. And if I'm looking at this from a storyline perspective, I'm going to position one of those two guys against my champion and not Dolph Ziggler. Maybe that's the obvious choice, and that's why I've kind of come around to the idea of Dolph Ziggler being the less obvious choice. And now that he's sort of flipped this switch, when he came out on SmackDown, he didn't even acknowledge the crowd. It was all business. It was just like, I'm here to show the world. I mean, he's like taking it literally, and I think that's a good direction for his character. It makes him seem more legitimate. It makes us take him more seriously. And another thing that I think has really helped Dolph Ziggler's cause. And this has sort of gone all throughout pro wrestling, and we'll talk about this a little bit with the Cruiserweight Classic and the outstanding match between Gargano and Ciampa. My only complaint with that match, and somebody tweeted about it too, and I had the thought before I saw the tweet. I think it was who's the ECW guy? Tommy Dreamer. Mm-hmm. He said the only problem I had with the match, and I completely agreed because I had the thought too, was the coming instantly back from a super kick. I think it was Gargano put a super kick on Ciampa, and he was instantly back into the next spot. I don't have any problems with any other setting up spots or selling less than they probably should have, except for that super kick. And what I'm coming to realize now is that across the WWE programming, the only person who gets a super kick over as a finisher is Dolph Ziggler.
Oh, well, yeah, sure. I mean, if we want to go old school, it would definitely be Shawn Michaels, the originator of that.
But I mean, even since Shawn Michaels, a lot of people have used the super kick. It's not called Sweet Chin Music because that's Shawn's.
The super kick.
The super kick, and it's usually if not a finisher, it's certainly an equalizer. Yeah. It's like they have to sell that. You're at least gonna get a pinfall on a super kick because it's like that's gonna knock your head off. But as of late, we've been seeing a lot of false finishes with super kicks. A lot of just like, it doesn't...
It's the same thing with the DDT, because Jake the Snake Roberts was the one that started... Well, I mean, he was the one that started doing the DDT,
now we're seeing off-the-top rope DDTs.
It was his finisher, you know? Whereas now, like in Stone Cold Steve Austin complains about this a lot. He was just like, how in the hell does anybody kick out of a goddamn DDT? Jake the Snake, it used to be his finisher. Now guys are kicking out of it left and right.
I get it. I mean, obviously the industry changes, and in the words of Broken Matt Hardy, you have these spot monkeys who are just out here jumping around, performing, spot monkeys just wanting attention and not focusing on ring psychology. And I do think there's a line. I think that, and you obviously have the wrestling purists of the world who are going to hate those matches, who probably hated the Gargano and Ciampa match from CWC.
Or just anything that happens on the side of the ring. Sure. Like anytime anybody gets slammed on the side of the ring, where it's the hardest part of the ring. I guess when you talk about wrestling purists, that's one of their biggest gripes is how does somebody get up from a body slam on the side of the ring? How does somebody get up from a DDT or a super kick? You're right. It does take legitimacy away from that move specifically. Right. I'm not doubting that at all.
We don't live in a world in pro wrestling anymore where a DDT is that effective as a finisher, because you have guys doing it off ropes. I mean, it's you have them springboard into a DDT. It's just become an effective move that's not a finisher.
And
that's what I thought was happening to the super kick. But now Dolph Ziggler is pinning guys 1, 2, 3 with the super kick, and he's the only one.
The only one that seems to be.
If any listeners listening to this is like, no, so and so, tweet us.
Let us know. Leave a comment.
I'm sure that maybe somebody has done it recently, but Ziggler is constantly getting the super kick over. That's how he's winning. That's his new finisher.
Yeah.
And it's just like the Shawn Michaels comparisons are getting a little blatant.
It's getting,
But, I mean, as a hardcore follower of the gospel of HBK, I'm not mad about it, because it's sort of like a reincarnation of my favorite wrestler. I don't think he's as gifted as Shawn Michaels. Nobody probably is. But what he's doing, coming back as this sort of flipping the switch, and I'm not all fun and games, man. I'm gonna win matches. It's effective to me, and it's made me care a little bit more about the story. When at first I was like, why is AJ Styles? Why is Bray Wyatt? AJ Styles I get because he's got a program with Cena right now that you want to see to an end. You want to get an end to that story. Bray Wyatt is something I don't get. Because right now you really have nothing to do with him. He's clearly a main event guy on SmackDown. He's wrestling in the main event, but he's not on the card at SummerSlam.
He's not getting a main event push.
He's not getting a main event push. They went with Dolph over that. And I just don't know who needs it more, because you have in Bray Wyatt this gold mine of a performer across the board. I mean, not many people tick off all the boxes that you want from a pro wrestler. Yeah. And he's pretty much checks off all the boxes. So why is he not getting this monumental push? I don't really have an answer for it, but the storylines that they're putting him into now just seem forced and unnecessary. He's just there, so you gotta program him into these main events on SmackDown, but he's got no heat going into SummerSlam. He doesn't even have a match.
Part of me wonders...
And they've kind of turned him into like a crybaby.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not getting what I deserve, and that's not Bray Wyatt.
Part of me wonders if they're giving Dolph the push because he said not too long ago that whether he gets another run as champion, he plans on leaving the company within the next 2 to 3 years.
And I love Dolph Ziggler, but do they need him that bad?
And that's the thing. I don't know if
maybe
they're
it's
like,
a reward for
he's
him.
leaving the
Thanks for all
company
your
sometime.
service.
Here, we'll put the belt on you one last time for everything you've done, yes. But
That's
at the same time, like, it's not taking anybody new and pushing them in the direction
That's what
that
I'm
they need
wondering.
to go.
Maybe there's just storylines that they're like, we can't quite pull the trigger on this with Bray Wyatt yet. Again, we're not in the room. We're not in these writers' rooms. We're not. We don't have the ear of Vince McMahon as often as we'd like. He does call us sometimes.
Every once in a while.
So we don't know for sure if they're holding things off and we're just complaining for the sake of complaining. But if Dolph Ziggler doesn't win the belt,
then it's like, what's the point of this whole push?
What was it for? Because I don't see this feud lasting much longer, if at all, after SummerSlam.
And I can see.
So what do you do with Dolph if he loses?
I can see Dean losing the belt.
I don't know.
Go on to Dolph. Like, I don't know.
Rumors are going around because they've announced house shows and stuff post SummerSlam, which advertised Dean Ambrose as defending his championship against people like AJ Styles. So
maybe they view Ziggler as the guy to get these people over.
And we all know that Dolph Ziggler can do that, but it just seems like such a tease. I mean, you do have a very large portion of the IWC, the Internet Wrestling community, saying push Dolph Ziggler, give him a push. I just don't know if it didn't seem right to me. But to his credit, Dolph Ziggler is doing a great job of getting this new layer of his character over, this new intensity. The fact that he's pinning Bray Wyatt on a super kick, and he's getting that move over. I mean, it's positioning him as a strong guy. I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't necessarily, comparing it to the other championship match, I don't know which one I care about more. They're both, I feel like they've done more work in building the storyline for Ziggler and Ambrose. So I care a little bit more about that match, and I'm more curious about what's going on with Dolph Ziggler. Are they gonna have him win and give him this monumental push? Is he gonna go on a title reign? Or is he going to lose and he's right back to mid-card Dolph, getting guys over? I don't know. And if that's the case, why did they wait to give Bray Wyatt the push? Why did they wait to give AJ Styles the push? I don't know. Hopefully, those answers become clear in the coming weeks.
They should have been building them up a long time ago, specifically Bray
Wyatt. Either way, I mean, I give the edge storyline-wise to Ziggler and Ambrose. They've done more work building it. There's at least more layers there. They're kind of two baby faces. They wrestled as a tag team as a part of the main event in SmackDown. It was Ziggler and Ambrose versus Eric Rowan and Bray Wyatt. Yeah. Which again, I'm just like,
if these guys are
he's got one guy behind him. I don't get it. Just give him a group or give him nothing.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to me that there's one goon and that's it. And he's giving him a prep talk going into the match like, we got to keep fighting for the cause. And I'm just like,
what cause?
Exactly.
There were 4 of you. One of you is out on injury still. The other one is on Raw, and then there's 2 of you on SmackDown.
And again, I want to give these writers more credit than it seems like I'm giving them because they could have the answers that we don't have. Just wait. They could be listening to this saying, just wait. It's gonna pay off. Just wait. And I sincerely hope that it does.
And we are waiting.
We are waiting, and we will be watching.
We've been waiting.
But I just want to see Bray Wyatt then make a clear decision to say like he's a cult leader or the universe is his cult.
Yeah.
And he's a one man sort of. And I think that's more effective now. Just bring him out there on his own. It just seems like we got to put Rowan with him because we don't really have anything else to do with Rowan.
Yeah,
also,
we don't know what to do with Rowan.
Before we were calling Luke Harper a free agent, but on the Stone Cold podcast, his last guest was Braun Strowman. And Braun Strowman, I don't know if he slipped this information or not, but he said the other 3 Wyatts were Wyatt family members were drafted to SmackDown, and I'm on Raw. So they're giving me the singles push. It seems like when Harper comes back, he's going to resume, and it's going to be, again, sort of like it was when Harper was gone, the 2 guys flanking Bray Wyatt, which I guess 2 is better than 1, but
I don't know. I think with Bray Wyatt specifically, I feel like...
I don't want him to have to fall back on these 2 huge, I forget who it was, I think it was Dean Ambrose who called them swamp bros or whatever he called them, but I want to see him being able to stand on his own.
Me too.
If not, have him create an entire faction. Have him control the minds of mid-card dudes and bring them over to the Wyatt family.
But when you think about Bray Wyatt and like what they could do with that character, I mean, you got boiler matches that they could do, like more compound matches.
The potential is unlimited with what you can do with that character. So when you're looking at Ziggler v Ambrose, I can't not see Bray Wyatt getting involved in that match somehow. And if that's what happens, if Bray Wyatt gets involved, the Wyatt family somehow, and keeps Ziggler from winning the match and really positions Bray as that next guy, then I guess I see. And then they're really turning Bray Wyatt into this like, I'm going to get what's mine type guy, which I don't really like as much. I wish they just would have put him in that position right away. Yeah. He's that affecting. He's that talented. He's that strong that he won the opportunity legitimately by fucking freaking guys out, by doing the spots that he does. Yeah. He's creepy. He's scary. Yeah. Use that. But instead he's getting beat by Dolph Ziggler. And I know it was like they threw his head into the post, so that made it the super kick extra effective. But it just seems muddled to me. We'll see. We'll see. We have another week.
What happens.
We have another week of SmackDown where we'll see if they can flesh out the story anymore, and then we're going to SummerSlam. So I'm not as jazzed about these two title matches as I want to be, but they have another week to make it so.
They have time to make up for it.
We've talked about Lesnar Orton. Then we've got a rematch of the face of that runs
Cena
the place,
versus
John
Styles.
Cena.
Yeah, which I mean.
And it's been, we don't have, I mean, it's not Raw or SmackDown, so there is a possibility that the club could get involved. Gallows and Anderson are clearly going to be there.
They're going to be on the card.
My hope is that my hope is, and this has a little bit more storyline than the other matches, I want to say, because this is a program that's been going on for a couple of pay-per-views. So I see this as being the culmination of this story, and I see it as AJ winning clean. Because if he doesn't, and Cena's going part-time, how, again, does that position AJ Styles as one of your top guys on SmackDown?
Just the same thing as if you having Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton. Clearly, Brock is going to leave, and Randy's going to stick around. You want to position Orton,
you want to position Styles as two of your top guys on SmackDown. You cannot have them lose clean to
either one of those guys. Yeah, and like I'm not really invested in the storyline of Cena versus Styles.
No, it just seems like you got to have the top indie guy of all time versus the top WWE guy.
Yeah,
and I mean it's a good program. Again. They've been entertaining. I've enjoyed the transformation that AJ Styles has made as a heel. I think he's done great work. I hope he comes out on top in a clean 1-2-3 pin. Send John Cena off to film his fucking TV show.
American Grit.
If you really care about this company as much as you care about it, John Cena,
put AJ Styles over.
I know it's not up to him. Maybe it is. I think he probably does have some say in it.
Yeah, but he's the 15-time world champ. You know he's gonna, get up to 16, possibly surpass Ric Flair.
They probably have that, and like Ric Flair said on his podcast, go ahead and try. I'll go win another championship and I'll beat your record again.
Yeah, exactly.
Which he will.
He will. He'll go back to TNA or some shit.
Good
Who knows?
luck, Cena. But so that's what we don't have to get too much into the storyline of that. Everyone knows it's just like icon versus icon.
And Cena said before he's never going to leave the company.
But he is going part-time. He's taking time off. He's not going to be a regular performer, going to all these house shows, keeping the company on his back like he has.
Yeah.
And AJ Styles is in a position to do that, even as a heel. I mean, he's given himself that much clout in the short time since he's made his debut at the Rumble.
Yeah.
He's positioned himself as a top guy.
Well, he's a main event player, for sure.
As a wrestling fan, I'm pumped for the match. I love AJ Styles. I hope that there are no interruptions as far as the club goes or whatever, unless it's really exciting for the story and we're getting something like the club is forming or whatever. But I hope to just see Styles come out clean and really help his character out. Then we've got the Intercontinental Championship.
The Miz versus Apollo Crews, which I honestly forgot that this was a match. I forgot this was a match on the card, to be perfectly honest with you.
I'm so worried about Apollo, man.
Me too. I worry about his longevity in the company because the only thing he seems to be able to offer them right now is a smile.
He's got a great smile, but I mean, this goes hand in hand. Like Shawn Michaels, I want him to lose his smile. This goes hand in hand with what I'm saying about these outgoing I love the crowd. These are my people. Baby faces who come out there smiling like he does, like Apollo does. They go out in the ring. They do their thing. He's an amazing athlete. He's an amazing in-ring performer. But in his push going up into this IC title match, he didn't win anything clean, really. No. It was all sort of like he locked into these wins.
Yeah.
It didn't position him as being any stronger as an athlete, and at the same time, they've done absolutely nothing to form any sort of character.
I was going to say, there's no character
needs,
with
like
him.
I've said, with these baby faces who can have that switch. If I can see Apollo Crews make a switch, another guy who did this great a couple of weeks ago was No Way Jose down in NXT. Before I liked him. He was this fun-loving guy. He always came out and danced. No Way Jose, big baby face, over with the crowd. He's going into this feud now with Austin Aries, which I'm liking because No Way Jose had this switch, and all of a sudden he had this look in his eye that was like, oh shit, he's not having fun anymore. He's gonna kill this guy, and he did. He showed his power against Austin Aries, and that was effective to me. The same thing happened with Dolph Ziggler. It's been effective.
I was just gonna mention Dolph Ziggler.
And we'll get to it with the Cruiserweight Classic. It happened in the match with Rich Swann. He's the most outgoing wrestler you've ever seen. He's dancing around, but he had a switch. And it turned, and all of a sudden you were like, oh shit, this is another gear that we didn't know this guy had. And that's what I want to see.
Apollo Crews
so
needs to
desperately
do
with
that.
Apollo Crews. And to some extent is what I want to see with Cesaro.
Yeah.
He's right now, he's just cutting these promos like, I want to win. He's not Russian.
I want to see him. I decided to change where I came from. I am a spy guy.
He's just always very like, I'm having fun. You know, I'm here to wrestle. I want to hear him
see
yell.
him get angry. I want to see him yell.
And that's another interesting thing to talk about with that whole end of Raw segment with the meeting of the GMs, which went absolutely.
Let's talk about that for a moment.
It went absolutely
Mick Foley invites
nowhere.
Daniel Bryan onto Raw. One GM invites another GM onto Raw, and it was supposed to be some sort of apology.
Well, it's supposed to work out the differences going on between Orton and Lesnar, and to sort of call a truce to say no more coming on each other's shows.
And what happens? Rusev comes out to interrupt it.
It was a foil to lead up to a match between
Rusev versus Cesaro.
And Cesaro kind of just came out really in an unmotivated way, and it sort of made it about himself, which
Having
I'm okay
already
with. Wrestled
a match already
wrestled, and was complaining. You know, I need my chance. I need my chance. You didn't tell me I was going to get my chance.
Even though he just beat Sheamus,
which he was using as a sort of a feather in his cap. Like that's even more reason why I should be getting this opportunity. And he does. He faces Rusev, and then it just becomes becomes the main event. It's a U.S. title match.
Yeah. Which it's like you're putting the U.S. title on the line. I was just like, is this going to be the moment where Cesaro finally captures a title and everybody freaks out? And for a moment there, it seemed like it was going to be. And I was like, there's no way that they can have this match and put the title on the line, and then all of a sudden,
it's another match that
loses.
which we didn't actually write down. The U.S. title match at SummerSlam, Reigns versus Rusev.
Reigns versus Rusev,
and
which is a good storyline.
Which is a great story. I mean, I'm excited about that. It really does, like we said last week with Paris, elevates the U.S. title as being the secondary title.
It also elevates
Raw.
Rusev too, because
Absolutely.
with Roman Reigns being one of the top guys there and having him in a feud with Rusev, that's going to build up Rusev. And honestly,
but if you're not going to go ahead,
I like that Rusev is getting all the wins that he is, because they need to build him to be this fighting machine.
I'd like to see him beat Roman Reigns clean.
Me too.
And keep building him up as a potential guy to go up against Lesnar down the road or whatever.
Absolutely.
And yes, Reigns can take this title off of him at the next pay-per-view. Even on Raw, make an episode of Raw that exciting where he gets the title. We saw how well that worked with Sasha Banks. You don't always have to have title changes on pay-per-views. Let's throw some bones on TV.
Which is why it was nice to see that on Raw when Sasha Banks won the women's championship.
And so
it so rarely happens anymore.
I'm really okay with that storyline. What I don't understand is what they're doing with Cesaro in that, where that's concerned. Are they just trying to position him as a maybe. And then you had that comment that Daniel Bryan made saying, I think you're being horribly underutilized here on Raw.
Yep.
Which makes me think, they've talked about they've left it open to the possibility that they could have swaps or trades or whatever. I really see Cesaro going over there to Daniel Bryan.
I wouldn't be surprised by that.
But at this point, what's he doing? What is he doing? Get him to take the IC belt off of The Miz.
Absolutely.
I see that making a little bit more sense because I don't see. If Apollo wins that IC belt, it's so stupid to me.
Yeah.
He has nothing right now to fall back on. Miz has to retain.
It's not pushing that title either.
Yeah. So we're getting back to that match. I don't care whatsoever about this match. To me, this is an easily predictable match. I feel like the Miz is going to win. There'll probably be some hijinks with Maurice, and he'll retain, and that's fine. I think that's what should happen because they've done nothing with Apollo Crews' character to make me cheer for him.
And they've done nothing with that storyline.
Nothing with the storyline whatsoever. So, they spent airtime on SmackDown with the Miz getting locked into a car by Scooby-Doo. It's just like, what? I understand there are children watching the show that you have to appeal to, but SummerSlam is 2 weeks away. Why is there no why is there no storyline, there no fire being stoked? Why are we wasting airtime on a Scooby-Doo bit when, I know there are advertising deals that have been struck, there are business relationships, we need to promote these movies. Kofi Kingston is in Scooby-Doo, so it just seemed like, wow, you got a storyline to build going into SummerSlam. Unless the hat comes off of Scooby-Doo and it's Apollo Crews, which would be even stupider. I don't know why are you wasting time? Making me care. This is SummerSlam. This is the IC belt. They've done nothing. Now the US Championship seems like a bigger deal than the Intercontinental. When it was one brand, it was clearly World Heavyweight Champion, IC, then US. When right now it seems like the IC title is kind of like a gimmick belt that the Miz is holding.
I didn't even know that the Miz versus Apollo Crews was a match that was on the card for SummerSlam.
It is.
Yeah, that's how poorly they're doing.
That's how little work they've done to
build
the storyline. So I feel like I can gloss over this one. I feel like the Miz is going to win pretty easily. The ones that you can predict pretty easily, and again, I leave open the possibility that they can blow my mind at SummerSlam with some sort of storyline that they bring out of nowhere. Apollo wins. We didn't see it coming. We care. But I don't see, if he wins smiling, I won. It's the underdog story. I won't care. I'll just be like, great. All you do is smile.
Let's see what you do with it.
Let's see some fire. Maybe if in that match he has a turn, he has that switch where he switches into another gear and he's angry and you see him really come after him and start beating the life out of him. That's what I want to see with Apollo. Right now he's just a guy who smiles. He's a guy. He's just a guy, a happy guy who can do flips and he's real strong.
Yeah,
that's all. And
with really white teeth.
With a great smile.
Unbelievable smile.
It's a great smile.
He should have his face up at dentists' offices.
Or turn him into a heel and make him that sort of like, I've got the best smile in the WWE.
Yeah. Best smile, the best moves.
If you can't get him to do anything, then play to his strengths.
Or like maybe he does a sweet move and then he gets up and flashes a smile like, I know, I just did that.
Absolutely. Play into his strengths, and they're not doing it. So we can skip over that match. And then we got the Tag Team Championship. We've got the New Day versus Anderson and Gallows, the Club. And again, it just seems rushed. It seems after the brand split.
Not just that, but it seems extremely forced.
Yes, they sent the Club in to interrupt the New Day's first match after the brand split. It just seemed like, we're going to start this feud again. At first, I was like, okay, this is what I want them to do with Gallows and Anderson. I want them to interrupt every match that they can and just kick ass and take names. I want them to really position themselves as these enforcers who you should be really afraid of, and not like AJ Styles' goons who are only effective when he's there, and when they're in a singles match against John Cena, they get squashed. They did help that a little bit with Gallows winning really definitively over Kofi Kingston in the last episode on TV. But other than that, it just seems forced. It seems rushed. It seems like there's not a whole ton of story there. It just seems like they're trying to position Anderson and Gallows as the top competitor, competitors for the tag team titles. They needed to have a tag team championship match at SummerSlam. They couldn't think of anybody bigger or better to put against the New Day. So it's the Club. We'll throw them in there. And again, unless something happens next week or at SummerSlam, the club is forming, something like that, I'm not really going to care too much about this match. Either way, even if Anderson and Gallows win and get the titles, I'll say, okay, they're positioning them to be, strong heel tag team. That's great, but what is this doing for me story-wise? Am I excited for this feud going forward? Is it going to be a one-and-done type thing? Is it going to build something? I don't know. So I'm not stoked about it. I want to see some more storyline involved there. All I'm hearing about, as far as the New Day is concerned, is like eating bootios with Puff Daddy on Raw.
Right. Which is just like a cheap-off version of Lucky Charms, it looks like.
This is the new era. I don't want to see celebrity cameos and wasting airtime, So that match I'm not too excited about. Then we've got the one women's match that they've announced, Sasha Banks versus Charlotte.
Which I am looking forward to.
This is the one I'm probably most
excited about. After their match on Raw for the Women's Championship, one of the, probably the best women's match I've ever seen in the WWE, but one of the best matches I've ever seen, like on Raw. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
It's a match of the year candidate for me, especially on Raw, and the Cinderella story of Sasha Banks winning.
Absolutely.
And you kind of muddled the storyline a little bit the next week with the whole mixed tag match, even though it was entertaining, if not maybe a little demeaning. But you take it for how you will. Either way, I'm excited, really excited for the match. I hope that Sasha retains. I think I heard that the original plan was for Sasha not to retain until SummerSlam. So I see her winning, and I see her going on this run as champion, with Charlotte being right there as because Charlotte is just so impressive to me.
She's so good.
I think as good as Sasha is, she outshines her a little bit physically in the ring. But both of them are such dynamic performers. They have such natural charisma. I'm very, very excited for that match and the story. The story is good. There's not a lot there as far as like the meat of it goes. It's very on the surface. These two people have a history together. It's more of a Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens type story.
Yeah.
There's a history. It's real.
Part of the Four Horsewomen.
It feels real, and there's real, honest to God emotion involved that is palpable. You can tell. And that's why I'm so stoked about that match, maybe above any of the other ones. And then we've got the U.S. title match, which we talked about a little bit. We don't have to get into it. Reigns versus Rusev. We talked about it last week.
Yep.
That's a great story. They had a decent segment with Roman Reigns in the wedding cake. It was kind of funny. He took a drink of the champagne. And I was like, "Don't get tested, bro."
Yeah.
Can you drink?
Right.
Are you cool?
Just got done with Adderall.
Is that mellow yellow? Like what?
Are you okay with that?
Exactly.
Is it 7-Up that they put in there?
I like that feud though. I mean, that segment wasn't great, but
no, it was set up to.
I think they can do something a little bit more to build it up on Raw, and I hope they do. But either way, I'm stoked for that match. I think it's a great feud. I hope they keep that program going longer.
I agree.
I hope they don't take the belt off Rusev quite yet, but maybe the next one. And then the last match that we know of is the other tag match, Enzo and Cass versus Jericho. Jericho.
Yeah.
As if you will.
I want to say I love Chris Jericho. I love Kevin Owens. I'm not sure how the two of them are going to work as a tag. I don't know if this is something that's going to be permanent.
My hope is that it's not a permanent situation. It's something that they bring back when they need to for a tag team match on Raw or whatever. But I think it pigeonholes their characters a little bit to have, especially Kevin Owens, to I liked where it was going at first when Jericho was saying in that promo, I've had this transformation or whatever. Now I know that Kevin Owens will always have my back. He's always got my back under any circumstance. And Kevin Owens was kind of stone-faced during that promo, just kind of like...
He looked like he didn't want to be a part of it.
Really? And I thought he was going to grab the mic and be like, "Don't get ahead of yourself, Jericho, and give me the Kevin Owens." But his character at least bought into it and was like, "Yeah, I got your back." Yeah, and that sort of was what it was. These kind of like comedic heels getting together to have, because you got to have Enzo and Cass on SummerSlam because Enzo is so over. You got to have him come cut a promo.
Yeah.
And you think, well, who can they face? None of the tag teams are up to snuff right now unless it's American Alpha. And Enzo and Cass haven't even really established themselves as real tag team competitors in the tag team division. Not with the New Day or the Club, or really. So you got to have them with somebody. Let's put them with two other guys who can talk.
Yeah, two guys who can talk, and not even two guys who are a legit tag team. It's just like, hey, we have two singles competitors that aren't on the card for SummerSlam. What are we going to do with them?
I don't see the Jericho gimmick being like a new Breezango thing. Obviously, I don't see that happening. It is what it is. I think it'll be entertaining enough. I don't know. I don't really care who wins because I don't think this is a feud that's going to continue.
It's also not even you're just getting a match for the tag team championship.
No, not even.
It's just like, let's see which
team
is better.
You're getting 4 people. 3, maybe a big cast is over enough because of Enzo, but 4 guys who are really over in the company should be fun. That's all I expect from it.
I agree.
That's the card we have right now. I mean, I think we're going to see on SmackDown. At least you have some ambiguous things. You have a women's title in SmackDown that doesn't exist, and you have a tag team title on SmackDown that doesn't exist. Both of which have been alluded to that will exist. I really foresee on SmackDown matches being created, a women's championship match somehow, and an American Alpha involved tag team title match somehow at SummerSlam. Maybe not, but it seems if they don't, that SmackDown is pretty underrepresented in SummerSlam.
I agree.
So that's SummerSlam. We talked a little bit enough about Raw and SmackDown going into the SummerSlam card. It'll be interesting. We'll see. We got next week. We got Raw. We got SmackDown.
We'll got see NXT. Another round of CWC.
The go home shows on these Raw and SmackDown can elevate these storylines a little bit more. I would like to see that. But we've talked a lot, and I think it's time for a short break. We got a lot more coming up on the Slobberknocker Podcast. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
The Slobberknocker. Brought to you by Make It Up Media. It's the wrestling cast that's built to last and kick some ass and smoke some.
Thanks again for joining us here on the Slobberknocker Podcast, the greatest wrestling minds of a generation. We're talking a little bit about the week in WWE. First of all, we had NXT last week. We have it again tonight. We're recording on a Wednesday. We're very excited. I don't know if Mike watched NXT. I think he knows kind of what happened with it, but I just had a few brief things I wanted to graze over. Hideo Itami made his return. He's really fun to watch. He's obviously going to be one of the top guys in NXT going forward. More outstanding heel work from Samoa Joe as well as Asuka. They both had just outstanding work. I won't get into the details. If you didn't watch it, watch it. They're doing great jobs talking about hyping storylines going into their pay-per-view TakeOver. I'm pumped for that title match between Nakamura and Balor. I'm pumped for Bayley and Asuka. So they're doing a great job as far as storylines are concerned there. You had Bobby Roode making his debut, cutting an okay promo. His promo kind of reminded me of like the football player in high school who takes drama class and like he actually like is pretty good. Like we're like, oh man,
I know exactly who you're talking about.
He was actually. I didn't expect him to be good, but man, that was good. That's kind of how a lot of WWE guys, a lot of pro wrestlers are like, shit, man, he can talk. But I mean, obviously Bobby Roode is going to be huge in NXT. I don't see him being there for very long. He's a main roster guy. He probably should have gone to the main roster.
Yeah.
His theme song is so glorious. It's amazing. I can't wait. We're going to definitely cover that at some point.
I can't wait to do that.
It's like Muse did their cover song, or did Bobby Roode's theme. It's awesome. And you had the Revival versus TM61 as the main event. It was awesome. Corey Graves, I wanted to get over as well. He's doing his thing on NXT still. He's amazing. He had a great line during that match. He said, "I hope Gargano and Ciampa play Pokemon Go off a cliff somewhere," which I thought was hilarious. He just has all those sorts of great one-liners. TM61, I'm a huge fan of. It's sort of I sort of see TM61 and Gargano and Ciampa being the sort of new faces of the tag team. I see the Revival coming up real soon. They need a heel tag team on SmackDown, big time.
I agree.
And I want to see American Alpha and the Revival go at it forever and ever and ever.
Fight forever.
That's NXT. It's happening again tonight. I'm pumped for it. And then we had the CWC. Just want to get myself over one more time. Perfect. First round bracket for Over Easy, Kyle Adams.
Look at you! Yeah, right. I mean, I was after that first round.
Another member of Theater in the Ring, Ryan Swenson, who you'll be hearing from a lot more of in the future, does not have a perfect bracket, nor does the man
Michael
sitting across from me.
I definitely don't have a perfect bracket.
Going into the second round, we've got some outstanding matches, but can we talk about how Rich Swann is like my new favorite wrestler?
Absolutely, and I just wanted to say a couple things about him. 2 things. One, the off-the-mat Hurricane Rana that he did, and then also that standing 450 splash. Unbelievable.
What an entertainer. I mean,
not just that, but
unlimited
charisma. In-ring performer.
He had the switch that I wanted where it wasn't all fun and games the whole time. There was another layer to his character where you knew he was legitimate. I think he's got the brightest future. I mean, I'm so pumped about Rich Swann. Then
Noam Dar versus
Noam Dar was kind of a dud of a match, and Noam Dar is better than that. But I mean, I love those charismatic fan faves who have vicious turns.
Then we have Jack Gallagher versus Fabian Eichner, which I thought was a really good match, especially with Jack Gallagher. He was an unbelievable technician.
Gallagher, I mean, obviously is a guy I would love to see in WWE in the future. He's one of my favorites in CWC because it's so much of that character, so much.
I feel like he'll be going up to NXT soon.
Maybe. I mean, some of these guys are going to have to jump right to the main roster because of the cruiserweight division, and I'm excited to see what happens there. That was a great match, and then we
closing out the night was Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa.
I mean, obviously this is a tag team going up against each other, but I mean, it was what a story this match was. I mean, all the way to the end with them sitting in the ring together and you know, him leaving, and then it was just everything you want to see. I mean, it was everything you want to see, a beginning, a middle, and an end when they come together. It just left me so fulfilled and so pumped for round 2 of the CWC, which is happening tonight, and you'll hear all about it next week on the Slobberknocker Podcast. We're going to take another short break, coming back with a brand new segment called, the working title right now, The Promo Showdown. It's over easy Kyle Adams versus Michael Palmideri, the motherfucking musical, and it's coming up after this. The Promo Showdown is coming for you. A new character every round, it's true. Cut a promo. 30 seconds. Cut a promo. 15 seconds. 10 seconds. 5 seconds. The Promo Showdown is here. And we're back on the Slobberknocker Podcast. We're getting into the Promo Showdown. This is an intense battle of character and improvisation between Michael and I. Here's how the rules work. There's going to be 30 seconds on the clock. We're each going to cut a promo. Who's going to go first? Do we care?
No, I don't think.
I'll go first.
Okay, cool.
I'm gonna
what we're
volunteer.
going to do is we're going to put 30 seconds on the clock.
So here's how the format goes, just very quickly so you know. I'm going to cut a 30-second promo out of nowhere. I have to build a character, cut the promo. Then 30 seconds from Mike. He cuts the promo. All that you need to do, the only rule with these promos, you have to get across who your character is. Ideally, you would like to say who you're fighting, what the match is, or whatever. But just get across who your character is. It has to be a fully formed character with a name. We'll each do 30 seconds. It'll come back to me.
And then we'll go down to 15
seconds.
Then 10, then 5. So
Cutting
you can see cutting these promos are going to get harder and harder.
In 5 seconds, you have to eliminate.
Okay.
So this is 30 seconds on the clock.
The noise-making app or feature on my phone is ready. So if a message comes through, I apologize. But I'm going to put 30 seconds on the clock. Kyle, are you ready?
I'm ready.
And go.
Slobberknocker Universe. My name is Barry Cockblocker. And if there's one thing I know, it's how to block cock. All these guys in the back think they can get ladies. They can't get ladies. I can get ladies, and I do it by stealing theirs. And after I steal them, I walk out to the ring, I slam them down. 1, 2, 3, Barry the cock blocker, and I'm blocking your cock next. Woo! 30 seconds. That was. I'm gonna write all these down because hopefully we can bring these characters back sometime. Who was that? Barry the cock blocker.
Barry the cock blocker.
He's a character. Wow. So we have 30 seconds on the clock for Michael Palmideri. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Your time starts now.
My name is Salvatore, and I am here in America to take one thing and one thing only, and that is the gold. When I was just a little wee boy, a wee little Salvatore, I read that America's streets were paved in gold. Well, guess what? I'm coming to America, and I'm taking that gold, and I'm putting it around my waist. God bless America!
Time! Nice! So is his name just Salvatore?
Salvatore.
Hey, fuck it. One name wrestler.
One name band.
Oh, shit.
We've got, these are going to be different characters.
It's
so
gotta be a new
15
character every time.
15 seconds on the clock. Are you ready?
I am ready.
And go.
Listen up, everybody. I've got something to say. The mic's in my hand, and now it's time to play. That's right. I am Jerry the
player. It's always a game, and I'm always playing it.
All right.
Hey,
Jerry the player.
Jerry the player.
He's always playing.
He's always playing. So we got Jerry the player. All right, Mike, you've got 15 seconds to cut a promo developing a whole new character. Are you ready?
I am ready.
15 seconds on the clock. Your time starts now.
My name is the Nightmare, and I'm gonna come out of the shadows from the dark, and I am gonna interrupt your sleep and go into your dreams and steal them!
He is the Nightmare.
All right.
Yeah, it's a developed character. We know who
Developmental
he is.
territories.
Who he is, absolutely.
All right, we've got 10 seconds on the
fucking
clock.
seconds.
Different character. Are you ready, Kyle?
Okay.
All right, and go.
How y'all doing? My name is Ricky the Killer, and I'm out to kill people. One way or another, you're dying, folks. When I get in the ring, I'm killing people. No pins, death. That's it. Ricky the Killer.
Ricky the Killer. He's gonna kill people.
He doesn't just wrestle, he murders.
He kills people.
That was a 15-second promo.
That was
10 seconds. So, Mike, you are now on the 10-second rule here. 10 seconds. Are you ready, sir?
I'm totally ready.
10 seconds. Your time starts now.
My name is Gary, and I'm going to the ring to have me a good old time. Whether I get a Hurricane Rana, a DDT, or a 1, 2, 3, it's going to be a super blast for me, Gary.
So Gary's just a fun-loving guy.
Yeah.
Gary's like a fan who's just like, I try wrestling.
I'll
Why
get in
not?
there and check it out.
Oh my God. So yeah, you're the king of the one-name character, Salvatore and Gary. That's a program right there. So shit, what am I at now?
Building
5
up
seconds?
my brand. 5 seconds.
Fuck!
You got 5
Okay,
seconds.
Okay. Am I ready for this? Okay.
And go.
I am Kyle, and it's just me, baby. I'm out here fighting people. God damn it, that was awful. That was awful. I wasn't ready.
Well, Kyle apparently wasn't ready.
So that time I was ready. It was like my Scott Hall character, like it was Kyle Adams, but it was like myself, but just times 10.
I see it.
So yeah, that one sucked. I'll get better at the 5 second
only 5
ones.
seconds.
Let's see how well you can do with 5 seconds. Your time starts now.
This is Michael Palmendere, the motherfucking music. I'm gonna sing my way to the ring.
Woo! I love it.
Boom!
Yeah, we just used our own gimmicks
To get ourselves over.
get ourselves over in the last 5 seconds.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So clearly a 5 second promo is hard, but we'll get better at it. That's a really fun game, and we like to come up with new characters.
Try it at home with your friends
Try it
too.
at home, and we'll be doing this probably not every week, but we'll bring the promo showdown
Different
back.
games.
We have lots of fun segments like this coming up on future episodes of the Slobberknocker. But at this point, I think we've talked a lot of pro wrestling.
We definitely
I
did.
know I have to use the restroom.
Me too.
And I'm sure that's music to everybody's ears out there. But we are the Slobberknocker Podcast. We are here in Chicago, Illinois. Follow us on Twitter at SlobberknockPod. Keep an eye out on at Theater in Ring. That's Theater in the Ring on Facebook.
Check us out on Facebook on the Slobberknocker. You can listen to us on iTunes. Check it out
and subscribe on iTunes.
Media.
Give us a 5-star review. It really
All of
helps.
them.
Make
We
It Up
need
Media.
it.
Thank you to
Let
them
us
for
know
putting
how
us
we're
on.
doing. Ladies and gentlemen,
That's it, man.
For this episode,
1, 2, 3, it's over.
my name is Michael Palmendere.
My name is Kyle Adams.
And this is the Slobberknocker.